offering their own leus in their young's defence. For shame, my liege, make them your president. Were it not pity that this goodly boy should lose his birthright by his father's fault, and long hereafter say vnto his child, what my great-grandfather and grandsire got, my careless father fondly gore away. Ah, what a shame with this, look on the boy, and let his manly face which promiseth successful fortune steal thy melting heart, to hold thine own and low thine own with him. King, full well has Clifford plaid the orator, inferring arguments of mighty force. But Clifford, tell me, didst thou newer hear that things ill got had your bad success, and happy always was it for that son, whose father for his hoarding went to hell? I'll low my son my virtuous deeds behind, and would my father had left me no more, for all the rest is held at such a rate as brings 1,000-fold more care to keep than in possession any eat of pleasure. Our case in York would thy best friends did know, how it doth grieve me that thy head is here. My lord, cheer VP your spirits, our foes are nigh, and this soft courage makes your followers faint. You promised knighthood to our forward son. Vien sheath your sword and dub him presently. Edward, kneel down. King Edward Plantagenet, arise a knight, and learn this lesson, draw thy sword in right. Prin, my gracious father, by your kingly law, I'll draw it as apparent to the crown, and in that quarrel see it to the death. Cliff, why that is spoken like a toward prince. Enter a messenger. Mess, royal commanders, be in readiness. For with a band of 30,000 men comes Warwick backing of the Duke of York, and in the towns as they do march along, proclaims him king, and many fly to him. Darrany your battle, for they are at hand. Cliff, I would your highness would depart the field. The queen hath best success when you are absent. I good my lord, and low verses to our fortune. King, why that's my fortune too, therefore I'll stay. North, be it with resolution then to fight. Prin, my royal father, cheer these noble lords, and hearten those that fight in your defence. Vien sheath your sword, good father, cry S. George. March, enter Edward, Warwick, Richard, Clarence, Norfolk, Mountague and soldiers. Edward, now period Henry, wilt thou kneel for grace, and set thy diadem upon my head, or bide the mortal fortune of the field? Go rate thy minions, proud insulting boy. Becomes it thee to be thus bold in terms before thy sour Rainey and thy lawful king? Ed, I am his king, and he should bow his knee. I was adopted heir by his consent. Cla, since when his oath is broke, for as I hear, you that are king, though he do wear the crown, hawk oust him by new act of parliament, to blot out me and put his own son in. Cliff, and reason too. Who should succeed the father but the son? Rich, are you there, butcher? Oh, I cannot speak. Cliff, I Crookback, here I stand to answer thee. Or any he, the proudest of thy sort. Rich, 'twas you that killed young Rutland, was it not? Cliff, I in old York, and yet not satisfied. Rich, for God's sake, lords, do you signal to the fight? War, what sayst thou, Henry? Wilt thou yield the crown? Why, how now, long-tongued good Warwick, dare you speak? When you and I met at S. Albans last, your legs did better Cerowis than your hands. War, then 'twas my turn to fly, and now 'tis thine. Cliff, you said so much before, and yet you fled. War, 'twas not your valour, Clifford, drow me thence. Nor your manhood that durst make you stay. Rich, Northumberland, I hold thee ruerently. Break off the parley, for scarce I can refrain. The execution of my big swalny heart Vipon that Clifford, that cruel child-killer. Cliff, I slew thy father, cal'st thou him a child? Rich, I like a dastard and a treacherous coward. As thou didst kill our tender brother Rutland. But ere sunset, I'll make thee curse the deed. King, ha done with words, my lords, and hear me speak. Could defy them then, or else hold close thy lips. King, I prithee gie you no limits to my tongue. I am a king, and privilege to speak. Cliff, my liege, the wound that bred this meeting here cannot be cured by words, therefore be still. Rich, then executioner, unsheath thy sword. By him that made versus all, I am resolute. That Clifford's manhood lies upon his tongue. Ed, say Henry, shall I hold my right or no? 1,000 men who broke their fasts today. That near shall dine, unless thou yield the crown. War, if thou deny their blood upon thy head. For York in Eastus puts his armour on. Pr. Ed, if that be right which Warwick says is right. There is no wrong, but everything is right. War, who got thee there thy mother stands. For well I wot thou hast thy mother's tongue. But thou art neither like thy sire nor dam, but like a foul mishapen stigmatic, marked by the destinies to be ordered, as venom toads or lizards' dreadful stings. Rich iron of Naples hid with English guilt, whose father bears the title of a king, as if a channel should be called the sea. Sham'st thou not, knowing whence thou art extract, to let thy tongue detect thy base-born heart? Ed, a wisp of straw were worth 1,000 crowns. To make this shameless callet know herself. Helen of Greece was fairer far than thou, although thy husband may be Menelaus. Aeneas was Agamemnon's brother wronged by that false woman as this king by thee. His father ruled in the heart of France, and tamed the king and made the dolphin stoop. And had he matched according to his state, he might ha' kept that glory to this day. But when he took a beggar to his bed, and gracked thy poor sire with his brid all day, you and then that sunshine brewed a shower for him, that washed his father's fortunes forth of France, and heaped sedition on his crown at home. For what hath broached this tumult but thy pride? Hadst thou been meek, our title still had slept, and we in pity of the gentle king had slipped our claim till another age. Cla, but when we saw our sunshine made thy spring, and that thy summer bred versus no increase, we set the axe to thy usurping root. And though the edge hath something hit our cellus, yet know thou, since we ha' begun to strike, we'll newer low till we ha' hewn thee down, or bathed thy growing with our heated bloods. Edward, and in this resolution I defy thee, not willing any longer conference, since thou deignedst the gentle king to speak. Sound trumpets, let our bloody colours war, and either victory or else agraw. 'Cause stay, Edward. Ed, no wrangling woman will no longer stay. These words will cost 10,000 lius this day. Exeunt omnes. Alarum excursions, enter Warwick. War, forespent with toil as runners with a race. I lay me down a little while to breath, for strokes received and many blows repaid, ha' robbed my strong knit sinews of their strength. And spite of spite, needs must I rest awhile. Enter Edward running. Ed, smile gentle Hoen, or strike being gentle death. For this world frowns, and Edward's sun is clouded. War, how now my lord, what hap, what hope of's? Good. Enter Clarence. Cla, our hap is loss, our hope but sad despair. Our ranks are broke, and ruin follows versus. What counsel do you, whether shall we fly? Ed, bootless is flight, they follow versus with wings. and weak we are and cannot shun pursuit. Enter Richard. Rich, Warwick, why hast withdrawn thyself? Thy brother's blood the thirsty earth hath drunk, broached with the steely point of Clifford's lance, and in the very pangs of death he cried, like to a dismal clangor heard from far, Warwick, revenge, brother, revenge my death. So vie underneath the belly of their steeds, that stained their fetlocks in his smoking blood, the noble gentleman gaw VP the ghost. War, then let the earth be drunken with our blood. I'll kill my horse because I will not fly. Why stand we like soft-hearted women here, wailing our losses whilst the foe doth rage, and look upon as if the tragedy were plaid in east by counterfeiting actors? Here on my knee I vow to God abow, I'll newer pause again, newer stand still, till either death hath closed these eyes of mine, or fortune giu and me measure of ruin. O Warwick, I do bend my knee with thine, and in this vow do chain my soul to thine, and ere my knee rise from the earth's cold face, I throw my hands, mine eyes, my heart to thee, thou setter VP and plucker down of kings, beseeching thee if with thy will it stands, that to my foes this body must be prey, yet that thy brazen gates of Hohen may ope, and giu sweet passage to my sinful soul. Now lords, take low until we meet again, where'er it be in Hohen or in earth's. Rich brother, giu me thy hand, and gentle Warwick, let me embrace thee in my weary arms. I that did newer weep, now melt with woe, that winter should cut off our springtime so. Wars, away, away. Once more, sweet lords, farewell. Claw, yet let these all together to our troops, and giu them low to fly, that will not stay, and call them pillars that will stand to versus. And if we three you promise them such rewards as victors were at the Olympian games, this may plant courage in their quailing breasts, for yet is hope of life and victory. For slow no longer make we hence amen. Exeunt. Excursions, enter Richard and Clifford. Rich, now Clifford, I horse singled thee alone. Suppose this arm is for the Duke of York, and this for Rutland, both bound to ruinage. Wert thou inurient with a brazen wall? Cliff, now Richard, I am with thee here alone. This is the hand that stabbed thy father York, and this the hand that slew thy brother Rutland. And here's the heart that triumphs in their death, and cheers these hands that slew thy sire and brother, to execute the like upon thyself. And so horror at thee. They fight, Warwick comes, Clifford flies. Rich, nay Warwick, single out some other chase, for I myself will hunt this wolf to death. Exeunt. Alarum, enter King Henry alone. Hen, this battle fares like to the morning's war, when dying clouds contend with growing light. What time the shepherd blowing of his nails can neither call it perfect day nor night. Now sways it this way like a mighty sea, forked by the tide to combat with the wind. Now sways it that way like the selfsame sea, forked to retire by fury of the wind. Sometime the flood preludes, and then the wind. Now one the better, then another best, both tugging to be victors breast to breast, yet neither conqueror nor conquered. So is the equal poise of this fell war. Here on this molehill will I sit me down, to whom God will there be the victory. For Margaret my queen and Clifford too, who chid me from the battle, swearing both they prosper best of all when I am thence. Would I were dead if God's good will were so. For what is in this world but grief and woe? O God, methinks it were a happy life, to be no better than a homely swain, To sit upon a hill as I do now, to carry out dials quaintly, point by point, thereby to see the minutes how they run, how many makes the hour full complete, how many hours brings about the day, how many days will finish VP the year, how many years a mortal man may live. When this is known, then to divide the times. So many hours must I tend my flock, so many hours must I take my rest, so many hours must I contemplate, so many hours must I sport myself, so many days my use hob benny with young, so many weeks ere the poor fools will eat, so many years ere I shall shear the fleece, so minutes, hours, days, months and years, past hour to the end they were created, would bring white hairs into a quiet graw. Ah, what a life were this, how sweet, how lowly. Use not the hawthorn bush a sweeter shade to shepherds looking on their silly sheep, then doth a rich embroidered canopy to kings that fear their subjects' treachery. Oh yes, it doth, 1,000-fold it doth. And to conclude, the shepherd's homely curds, his cold thin drink out of his leather bottle, his wanted sleep, under a fresh tree's shade, all which secure and sweetly he enjoys, is far beyond a prince's delicates. His viands sparkling in a golden cup, his body couched in a curious bed, when care, mistrust and treason waits on him. Alarum, enter a son that hath killed his father at one door, and a father that hath killed his son at another door. Son, ill blows the wind that profits nobody. This man whom hand to hand I slew in fight may be possessed with some store of crowns, and I that haply take them from him now, may yet ere night yield both my life and them to some man else as this dead man doth me. Who's this, O God? It is my father's face, whom in this conflict I vienwares ho killed. O hoey times, begetting such euents. From London by the king was I pressed forth, my father being the Earl of Warwick's man, came on the part of York, pressed by his master, and I, who at his hands received my life, who by my hands of life borrowed him. Pardon me, God, I knew not what I did, and pardon, Father, for I knew not thee. My tears shall wipe away these bloody marks, and no more words, till they ha flowed their fill. King, O piteous spectacle, O bloody times, whiles Leon war and battle for their dens, poor harmless lambs abide their enmity. Weep, wretched man, I'll ide thee tear for tear, and let our hearts and eyes like Sewell war be blind with tears, and break o'ercharged with grief. Enter father bearing of his son. Fa, thou that so stoutly hath resisted me, giu me thy gold if thou hast any gold, for I ho bought it with 100 blows. But let me see, is this our foeman's face? Ah, no, 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 it is mine only son. Ah, boy, if any life be left in thee, throw VP thine eye, see what showers arise, blown with the windy tempest of my heart, vipon thy wounds that kills mine eye and heart. O pity God this miserable age. What stratagems, how fell, how butcherly, erroneous, mutinous and vien natural, this deadly quarrel daily doth beget. O boy, thy father gore thee life too soon, and hath bereft thee of thy life too late. King, woe about woe, grief more the common grief. O that my death would stay these ruthful deeds. O pity, pity, gentle Hohen pity. The red rose and the white are on his face, the fatal colours of our strewing houses. The one his purple blood right well resembles, the other his pale cheeks methinks presenteth. Wither one rose and let the other flourish. If you contend, 1,000 leaves must wither. Son, how will my mother for a father's death take on with me and ne'er be satisfied? Fa, how will my wife for slaughter of my son shed seas of tears and ne'er be satisfied? King, how will the country for these woeful chances misthink the king and not be satisfied? Son, was your son so rowed a father's death? Fath, was your father so bemoaned his son? Hen, was your king so grieved for Subike's woe? Much is your sorrow, mine 10 times so much. Son, I'll bear thee hence where I may weep my fill. Fath, these arms of mine shall be thy winding sheet. My heart, sweet boy, shall be thy sepulchre. For from my heart thine image near shall go. My sighing breast shall be thy funeral bell. And so obsequious will thy father be. Men for the loss of thee hoying no more, as Priam was for all his valiant sons. I'll bear thee hence, and let them fight that will. For I whole murdered where I should not kill. Exit. Hen, sad-hearted men much hour-gone with care. Here sits a king more waffle than you are. Alarums, excursions, enter the queen, the prince, and Exeter. Prince, fly, father, fly, for all your friends are fled. And Warwick rages like a chafed bull. Away, for death doth hold V's in pursuit. Come out you, my lord, towards Barwick post Amin. Edward and Richard like a brace of greyhounds, hawing the fearful flying hare in sight, with fiery eyes sparkling for very wrath, and bloody steel grasped in their earful hands, are at our backs, and therefore hence Amin. Exet, away, for vengeance comes along with them. Nay, stay not to expostulate, make speed. Or else come after, I'll away before. Hen, nay, take me with thee, good sweet Exeter. Not that I fear to stay, but low to go. Whether the queen intends, forward away. Exeunt. A loud alarum, enter Clifford wounded. Cliff, here burns my candle out, I hear it dies. Which whiles it lasted, gawking Henry light. O Lancaster, I fear thy overthrow. More than my body's parting with my soul. My low and fear glued many friends to thee. And now I fall, thy tough commixtures melts. Impairing Henry, strengthening misproud York. And whether fly the gnats but to the sun? And who shines now but Henry's enemies? O Phoebus, hadst thou newer genuine consent, that pH atone should check thy fiery steeds. Thy burning car newer had scorched the earth. And Henry hadst thou swayed as kings should do, or as thy father and his father did, genuing no ground vnto the house of York. They newer than had sprung like summer flies. I and 10,000 in this luckless realmy had left no mourning widows for our death. And thou this day hadst kept thy chair in peace. For what doth cherish weeds but gentle air? And what makes robbers bold but too much lenity? Bootless are plaints, and cureless are my wounds. No way to fly, no strength to hold out flight. The foe is merciless and will not pity. For at their hands I haw deserved no pity. The air hath got into my deadly wounds, and much effuse of blood doth make me faint. Come York and Richard, Warwick and the rest. I stabbed your father's bosoms, split my breast. Alarum and retreat, enter Edward, Warwick, Richard and soldiers Montague and Clarence. Ed, now breath we lords, good fortune bids versus pause, and smooth the frowns of war with peaceful looks. Some troops pursue the bloody-minded queen, that led calmly Henry though he were a king, as doth a sail, filled with a fretting gust, command an argosy to stem the wars. But think you, lords, that Clifford fled with them? War, no, 'tis impossible he should escape. For though before his face I speak the words, your brother Richard marked him for the graw, and wheresoe'er he is, he's surely dead. Clifford groans. Rich, whose soul is that which takes here hoey low. A deadly groan, like life and death's departing. See who it is. Ed, and now the battle's ended. If friend or foe, let him be gently said. Rich, rook that doom of mercy for tease Clifford, who not contented that he lopped the branch, in hewing Rutland when his lows put forth, but set his mirthring knife vnto the root, from whence that tender spray did sweetly spring. I mean our princely father, Duke of York. War, from off the gates of York, fetch down Wyhead. Your father's head which Clifford placed there, instead whereof let this supply the room. Measure for measure must be answered. Ed, bring forth that fatal shriechwell to our house, that nothing sung but death to these and ours. Now death shall stop his dismal threatening sound, and his ill-boding tongue no more shall speak. War, I think his understanding is bereft. Speak, Clifford, dost thou know who speaks to thee? Dark cloudy death o'ershades his beams of life, and he nor sees nor hears versus what we say. Rich, oh would he did, and so perhaps he doth. 'Tis but his policy to counterfeit, because he would avoid such bitter taunts, which in the time of death he gore our father. Claw, if so thou think'st, vex him with eager words. Rich, Clifford, ask mercy and obtain no grace. Ed, Clifford, repent in bootless penitence. War, Clifford, dues excuses for thy faults. Cla, while we dues fell tortures for thy faults. Rich, thou didst low York, and I am son to York. Edward, thou pittedst Rutland, I will pity thee. Cla, where's Captain Margaret to fence you now? War, they mark thee, Clifford. Swear as thou wast wont. Rick, what, not an oath? Nay, then the world goes hard, when Clifford cannot spare his friends an oath. I know by that he's dead, and by my soul, if this right hand would buy 2 hours' life, that I in all despite might rail at him, this hand should chop it off, and with the issuing blood stifle the villain whose VN stanched thirst York and young Rutland could not satisfy. War, I but he's dead, of with the traitor's head, and rear it in the place your father's stands. And now to London with triumphant march, there to be crowned England's royal king, from whence shall Warwick cut the sea to France, and ask the Lady Bona for thy queen. So shalt thou sinnow both these lands together, and hoying France thy friend, thou shalt not dread the scattered foe that hopes to rise again. For though they cannot greatly sting to hurt, yet look to whore them buzz to offend thine ears. First will I see the coronation, and then to Brittany I'll cross the sea, to effect this marriage, so it please my lord. Ed, ewen as thou wilt, sweet Warwick, let it be. For in thy shoulder do I build my seat, and newer will I undertake the thing, wherein thy counsel and consent is wanting. Richard, I will create thee Duke of Gloucester, and George of Clarence, Warwick as ourself, shall do and VNDO as him pleaseth best. Rich, let me be Duke of Clarence, George of Gloucester, for Gloucester's dukedom is too ominous. War, tut, that's a foolish observation. Richard be Duke of Gloucester, now to London, to see these honours in possession. Exeunt. Enter Sinclair and Humphrey, with crossbows in their hands. Sink, viender this thick-grown brake, we'll shroud ourselves, for through this lawn anon the deer will come, and in this cowert will we make our stand, culling the principal of all the deer. I'll stay about the hill so both may shoot. Sink, that cannot be, the noise of thy crossbow will scar the herd, and so my shoot is lost. Here stand we both, and I'm we at the best, and for the time shall not seem tedious. I'll tell thee what befell me on a day in this self-place where now we mean to stand. Sink, here comes a man, let's stay till he be past. Enter the king with a prayer book. Hen, from Scotland am I Stalny Ewan of pure Low, to greet mine own land with my wishful sight. No Harry, 'tis no land of thine. Thy place is filled, thy sceptre wrung from thee, thy balmy washed off wherewith thou was anointed. No bending knee will call thee CSR now, no humble suitor's priest to speak for right. No, not a man comes for redress of thee, for how can I help them and not myself? Sink, I here's a deer whose skin's a keeper's fee. This is the quondam king, let's seize thee upon him. Hen, let me embrace the sower adversaries, for wise men say it is the wisest course. Hum, why linger we, let these lay hands thee upon him. Sink, forbear a while, we'll hear a little more. Hen, my queen and son are gone to France for aid, and as I hear, the great commanding Warwick, I thither gone to craw the French king's sister, to wife for Edward, if this news be true. Poor queen and son, your labour is but lost, for Warwick is a subtle orator, and Lewis a prince soon won with mooing words. By this account then Margaret may win him, for she's a woman to be pitied much. Her sighs will make a battery in his breast, her tears will pierce into a marble heart. The tiger will be milder while she doth mourn, and Nero will be tainted with remorse, to hear and see her plaints, her brinish tears. Ay, but she's come to beg Warwick to jew. She on his left side, crawling-eyed for Henry, he on his right, asking a wife for Edward. She weeps and says her Henry is deposed. He smiles and says his Edward is installed. That she, poor wretch, for grief can speak no more, whiles Warwick tells his title, smooths the wrong, inferreth arguments of mighty strength, and in conclusion wins the king from her, with promise of his sister, and what else, to strengthen and support King Edward's place. O Margaret, thus 'twill be, and thou, poor soul, art then forsaken, as thou went'st forlorn. Hum, say, what art thou talk'st of kings and queens? King, more than I seem and less than I was born to. A man at least, for less I should not be. And men may talk of kings, and why not I? Hum, I, but thou talk'st as if thou wert a king. King, why so I am in mind, and that's enough. Hum, but if thou be a king, where is thy crown? King, my crown is in my heart, not on my head, not decked with diamonds and Indian stones, nor to be seen, my crown is cold content. A crown it is, that seldom kings enjoy. Hum, well, if you be a king crowned with content, your crown content, and you must be contented to go along with these, for as we think, you are the king King Edward hath deposed, and we his subjects, sworn in all allegiance, will apprehend you as his enemy. King, but did you never swear and break an oath? Hum, no, newer such an oath, nor will not now. King, where did you dwell when I was King of England? Hum, here in this country where we now remain. King, I was anointed king at 9 months old. My father and my grandfather were kings, and you were sworn true subjects vnto me. And tell me then, how you not broke your oaths? Sin, no, for we were subjects, but while you were king. Kings, why am I dead, do I not breath a man? Ah, simple men, you know not what you swear. Look, as I blow this feather from my face, and as the air blows it to me again, obeying with my wind when I do blow, and yielding to another when it blows, commanded always by the greater gust. Such is the lightness of you, common men. But do not break your oaths, for of that sin my milder entreaty shall not make you guilty. Go where you will, the king shall be commanded, and be you king's command, and I'll obey. Sinclair, we are true subjects to the king. King Edward. King, so would you be agging to Henry, if he were seated as King Edward is. Sinclair, we charge you in God's name and the king's, to go with versus VNTO the officers. King, in God's name lead your king's name be obeyed. And what God will, that let your king perform. And what he will, I humbly yield VNTO. Exeunt. Enter K. Edward, Gloucester, Clarence, Lady Grey. King, brother of Gloucester at S. Albans Field. This lady's husband, Sir Richard Grey, was slain. His land then seized on by the Conqueror. Her suit is now to repossess those lands, which we in Yorkist cannot well deny, because in quarrel of the House of York, the worthy gentleman did lose his life. Rich, your highness shall do well to grant her suit. It were dishonour to deny it her. King, it were no less, but yet I'll make a pause. Rich, yea, is it so? I see the lady hath a thing to grant, before the king will grant her humble suit. Clarence, he knows the game, how true he keeps. The wind. Rich is silence. King, widow, we will consider of your suit, and come some other time to know our mind. Wid, right gracious lord, I cannot brook delay. May it please your highness to resolve me now, and what your pleasure is shall satisfy me. Rich, I widow, then I'll warrant you all your lands, and if what pleases him shall pleasure you, fight closer, or good faith you let catch a blow. Clarence, I fear her not unless she chance to fall. Rich, God forbid that, for he'll take vantages. King, how many children hast thou, widow, tell me. Clarence, I think he means to beg a child of her. Rich, nay then whip me, he'll rather jew her too. Wid, 3, my most gracious lord. Rich, you shall haw 4 if you be rulled by him. King, 'twere pity they should lose their fathers. Lands. Wid, be pitiful, dread lord, and grant it then. King, lords jew versus low, I'll try this widow's. Wit. Rich, I good low haw you, for you will haw low, till youth take low, and low you to the crutch. King, now tell me, madame, do you low your children? Wid, I full as dearly as I low myself. King, and would you not do much to do them good? Wid, to do them good I would sustain some harms. King, then get your husband's lands to do them good. Wid, therefore I came VNTO your majesty. King, I'll tell you how these lands are to be got. Wid, so shall you bind me to your highness Cerois. King, what Cerois wilt thou do me if I jew them? Wid, what you command, that rests in me to do. King, but you will take exceptions to my boon. Wid, no, gracious lord, except I cannot do it. King, I but thou canst do what I mean to ask. Wid, why then I will do what your grace commands. Rich, he plies her hard, and much rain wears the marble. Claw as red as fire, nay then her wax must melt. Wid, why stops my lord, shall I not hear my task? King, an easy task, 'tis but to low a king. Wid, that's soon performed, because I am a subject. King, why then thy husband's lands I freely jew thee. Wid, I take my low with many thousand thanks. Rich, the match is made, she seals it with a kersey. King, but stay thee, 'tis the fruits of low I mean. Wid, the fruits of low I mean, my lowing liege. King, I but I fear me in another sense. What low think'st thou I sue so much to get? Wid, my low till death, my humble thanks, my prayers. That low which virtue beggars and virtue grants. King, no, by my troth, I did not mean such low. Wid, why then you mean not as I thought you did. King, but now you partly may pursue my mind. Wid, my mind will newer grant what I pursee you. Your Highness I'm zet if I'm a right. King, to tell thee plain I'm to lie with thee. Wid, to tell you plain I had rather lie in prison. King, why then thou shalt not whore thy husband's lands. Wid, why then mine honesty shall be my dower. For by that loss I will not purchase them. King, therein thou wrong'st thy children mightily. Wid, herein your Highness wrongs both them and me. But mighty Lord, this merry inclination accords not with the sadness of my suit. Please you dismiss me, either with aye or no. King, aye if thou wilt say aye to my request. No, if thou dost say no to my demand. Wid, then no, my lord, my suit is at an end. Rich, the widow likes him not, she knits her brows. Clarence, he is the bluntest wooer in Christendom. King, her looks doth argue her replete with modesty. Her words doth show her wit incomparable. All her perfections challenge sour rainty. One way or other she is for a king. And she shall be my low or else my queen. Say that King Edward take thee for his queen. Wid, 'tis better said than done, my gracious lord. I am a subject fit to east withal, but far vien fit to be a sour rainy. King, sweet widow, by my state I swear to thee, I speak no more than what my soul intends, and that is to enjoy thee for my low. Wid, and that is more than I will yield vnto. I know I am too mean to be your queen, and yet too good to be your concubine. King, you coil widow, I did mean my queen. Wid, 'twill gree your grace my sons should call you father. King, no more than when my daughters call thee mother. Thou art a widow, and thou hast some children, and by God's mother, I being but a bachelor, whore other some, why 'tis a happy thing to be the father vnto many sons. Answer no more, for thou shalt be my queen. Rich, the ghostly father now hath done his shrift. Clarence, when he was made a shrewer, 'twas for shift. King, brothers, you muse what chat we two whore had. Rich, the widow likes it not, for she looks very sad. King, you'll think it strange if I should marry her. Clarence, to who, my lord? King, why Clarence to myself. Rich, that would be 10 days' wonder at the least. Clarence, that's a day longer than a wonder lasts. Rich, by so much is the wonder in extremes. King, well, east on brothers, I can tell you both. Her suit is granted for her husband's lands. Enter a noble man. Nob, my gracious lord, Henry your foe is taken, and brought your prisoner to your palace gate. King, see that he be canoed vnto the tower, and go we brothers to the man that took him, to question of his apprehension. Widow, go you along, lords vsc her honourable. Exeunt. Man it Richard. Rich, I Edward will vsc women honourably. Would he were wasted, marrow, bones and all, that from his loins no hopeful branch may spring, to cross me from the golden time I look for. And yet between my soul's desire and me, the lustful Edward's title buried, is Clarence Henry and his son young Edward, and all the VN looked for issue of their bodies, to take their rooms ere I can place myself, a cold premeditation for my purpose. Why then I do but dream on sour rainty, like one that stands upon a promontory, and spies a far-off shore where he would tread, wishing his foot were equal with his eye, and chides the sea that sunders him from thence, saying he'll lade it dry to whore his way. So do I wish the crown being so far off, and so I chide the means that keeps me from it, and so I say I'll cut the causes off, flattering me with impossibilities, My eyes too quick, my heart a reweens too much. Vien less my hand and strength could equal them. Well, say there is no kingdom then for Richard. What other pleasure can the world afford? I'll make my hoen in a lady's lap, and deck my body in gay ornaments, and witch sweet ladies with my words and looks. O miserable thought, and more Vien likely, then to accomplish 20 golden crowns. Why Lau forswore me in my mother's womb, and for I should not deal in her soft laws. She did corrupt frail nature with some bribe, to shrink mine arm VP like a withered shrub, to make an inurious mountain on my back, where sits deformity to mark my body, to shape my legs of an unequal size, to disproportion me in Uri part, like to a chaos or an Vien-licked bear-whelp, that carries no impression like the dam. And am I then a man to be belued? O monstrous fault to harbour such a thought. Then since this earth affords no eye to me, but to command to check to a rebear such, as are of better person than myself, I'll make my hoen to dream vipon the crown, and whiles I liut account this world but hell, vien till my misshap trunk that bears this head be round impaled with a glorious crown. And yet I know not how to get the crown, for many lius stand between me and home, and I like one lost in a thorny wood, that rents the thorns and is rent with the thorns, seeking a way and straying from the way, not knowing how to find the open air, but toiling desperately to find it out, torment myself to catch the English crown, and from that torment I will free myself, or hew my way out with a bloody axe. Why I can smile and murder whiles I smile, and cry content to that which grieves my heart, and wet my cheeks with artificial tears, and frame my face to all occasions. I'll drown more sailors than the mermaid shall, I'll slay more gazers than the basilisk, I'll play the orator as well as Nestor, deceive you more slyly than Velis's could, and like a Sinon take another Troy. I can add colours to the chameleon, change shapes with Proteus for advantages, and set the murderous Mashuil to school. Can I do this and cannot get a crown? Tut, were it farther off, I'll pluck it down. Enter. Flourish, enter Louis the French king, his sister Bona his admirals. Cold Bourbon, Prince Edward, Queen Margaret and the Earl of Oxford. Louis sits and riseth VP again. Louis, fair Queen of England, worthy Margaret, sit down with versus, it ill befits thy state, and birth that thou shouldst stand, while Louis doth sit. Marg, no mighty King of France, now Margaret must strike her sail and learn a while to seru, where kings command. I must confess, great Albion's queen in former golden days, but now mischance hath trod my title down, and with dishonour laid me on the ground, where I must take like seat vnto my fortune, and to my humble seat conform myself. Louis, why say, fair queen, whence springs this deep despair? Marg, from such a cause as fills mine eyes with tears, and stops my tongue, while heart is drowned in cares. Louis, whate'er it be thou still like thyself, and sit thee by our side. Seats her by him. Yield not thy neck to fortune's yoke, but let thy dauntless mind still ride in triumph. Our all mischance. Be plain, Queen Margaret, and tell thy grief. It shall be eased if France can yield relief. Marg, those gracious words rue you my drooping thoughts, and gee you my tongue-tied sorrows low to speak. Now therefore be it known to noble Louis, that Henry, sole possessor of my Lau, is of a king become a banished man, and folk to lieu in Scotland a forlorn, while proud ambitious Edward, Duke of York, usurps the regal title and the seat of England's true anointed lawful king. This is the cause that I, poor Margaret, with this my son, Prince Edward Henry's heir, am come to craw thy earst and lawful eyed. And if thou fail these, all our hope is done. Scotland hath will to help but cannot help. Our people and our peers are both misled. Our treasure seized, our soldiers put to flight. And as thou seest, our Selous in hoey plight. Lewis, renowned queen, with patience calm the storm, while we bethink a means to break it off. Marg, the more we stay, the stronger grows our foe. Lewis, the more I stay, the more I'll succour thee. Marg, oh, but impatience waiteth on true sorrow. And see where comes the breeder of my sorrow. Enter Warwick. Lewis, what's he approacheth boldly to our presence? Marg, our Earl of Warwick, Edward's greatest friend. Lewis, welcome, Bra Warwick, what brings thee to France? He descends, she ariseth. Marg, I now begins a second storm to rise. For this is he that moves both wind and tide. Warwer, from worthy Edward, King of Albion, my lord and sour Rainy, and thy vowed friend, I come in kindness and vie feigned low. First to dow greetings to thy royal person, and then to craw a league of amity, and lastly to confirm that amity with nuptial knot, if thou vouchsafe to grant that virtuous Lady Bona, thy fair sister, to England's king in lawful marriage. Marg, if that go forward, Henry's hope is done. Warwer and gracious madame, speaking to Bona in our king's behalf, I am commanded with your low and fore humbly to kiss your hand, and with my tongue to tell the passion of my sour Rainy's heart, where fame, late entering at his heedful ears, hath placked thy beauty's image and thy virtue. Marg, King Lewis and Lady Bona, hear me speak. Before you answer Warwick, his demand,